welcome back to another heart opening, soul deep episode of Pleasure Principles, the podcast where we explore the many flavors of intimacy, connection, and embodied aliveness. I'm your host, Avik, and today's conversation is for anyone who's ever wondered, like, why do I shut down when I crave connection? Why does intimacy feel risky even when someone I trust? And also, sometimes, can safety in my body be the missing link to be deeper love? Dear listeners, I guess most of us we come up with this kind of questions, right? So, what do you think? Do let us know in the comment section or on social media or on any favorite podcast platforms. Would love to listen to your comments. And also, if you have anything to share, please do share. Well, joining us today is someone who lives and breathes these questions, Amber Lavin. So, welcome to the show, Amber.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Amazing, amazing. So, Amber, thank you so much for joining us today. And before we delve deep into this topic, I'll quickly love to introduce you to all the listeners. Dear listeners, Amber is a brilliant relationship coach from Asheville, and she is a master of mind body connection, attachment theory, and the art of mindful embodied dating. So she helps women move from anxious patterns and heartbreak cycles into the grounded, secure, and meaningful love. Not through the chasing fantasies, but by coming home to themselves. Yes. So, dear listeners, and today we are diving into a topic which is the way to experience openness in intimacy is to experience safety and regulation in our bodies. So, why to wait? Grab your tea, coffee, take a breath, and let's drop in. Welcome to the show again.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Amazing. So, Amber, you often say that openness begins with safety in the body. So, if you can break down that, what does that really mean on a nervous system level?
Yeah, I think in our modern culture, we tend to be up in our heads and logical and planning, and there's just a lot of emphasis on that parts of ourselves and actual openness in our body really feels like ease. I think many people, if they just take a moment right now to notice any tension or holding, many times there's small places in our shoulders, in our face where we're holding tension. And
Mhm.
when we're holding that tension, we're actually not feeling safe. Like that's what we do when we're experiencing
Yeah.
unsafety is we're tensing up. And when we're tensing up and experiencing unsafety, we're not fully able to be present with another person because we're in this fight or flight response. And so tapping into that relaxation, like rest and digest, we're actually able to experience intimacy in a way more uh, integrated way because we're feeling open.
Hmm. Understood. So, how do we even recognize when our body isn't feeling safe, like especially when the mind says everything is okay? So, what do you say?
Yeah, typically people will develop headaches, or sickness even. They might have a cold but especially I think headaches or pain or physical pain or back pain. Because even though they're like, I feel okay, but my back hurts or I always have a headache, is something I hear from clients.
Mm.
And typically that's a signal, because if you're always feeling tense in your body,
Mm.
it's going to create pain. It's
Okay.
just a natural, expression of that tension. And so that's a really good indicator that even if mentally you're like, I don't feel scared, but I have a headache every day or my
Mm.
shoulder is still tense all the
Mm.
time, that's probably a pretty good indicator that you're not you're not experiencing relaxation in your body and not feeling safe in your connections.
Wow. I mean, that's a great thing that you mentioned. And I have noticed in my own life that sometimes I confuse like chemistry with the safety. Like my body might feel like lit up, but it's actually, I mean, dysregulation. Uh, I mean, as excitement. So, uh, listeners, like, if you have ever felt that, this is where embodiment gets real. So, thank you so much, Amber. Like, it's really great. And so, like, if you can also share, like, so you mentioned about the attachment patterns. So, how do our early attachment styles shape our ability to feel safe in the intimacy today? What do you say?
Yeah, so whenever we're a child, or a young adult, or even an adult, we create patterns as human beings. I mean, we're just animals and we're creating patterns and we're trying to make connections of what's true and what's not true. And for relationships in particular, we're creating a story of this is what a relationship looks like. This is how people
Mm,
attune to me. This is how people help me feel understood and seen. And if
mm,
early on you witnessed relationships that were um, dramatic or a lot like a roller coaster, a lot of fighting, and then there was reconciliation, and that's your representation of what a relationship is, you're then going to probably unconsciously or consciously, because most of us want healthy partnerships, but
mm,
because of that pattern, more than likely you're going to end up seeking out that type of relationship, someone who's going to um, confirm that story for you.
mm,
And so you'll end up in roller coasters of drama, and then we get back together and we fight a lot, but we love each other a lot. And it's typically just a pattern of that's how your relationship that you witnessed was growing up, and then and how a parent might have been with you even, and then you're looking for that relationship out in the world.
mm. Exactly. So, can those patterns actually change, or are we just managing them better as adults?
They can 100% change. Our brains have neuroplasticity.
Mm,
And so we can create new neural pathways in our brains and really rehardwire what's happening. And many times when I'm working with clients, I call it faking secure attachment. So you can actually fake what it's like to have secure attachment, to date with secure attachment. And over time, your nervous system will begin to understand, because that's really our natural way of being, is to feel secure and loved and open and receiving. And as you practice those skills, your nervous system will begin to understand that, oh, this is actually so much more natural and how I wanna be, but it just takes as any habit, it just takes
mm.
some time implementing the skill, practicing it over and over again so that you can start to be integrated.
Understood. Okay. Wow. So, I mean, this actually gives hope. I mean, honestly, I think many of us grew up without the blueprints for secure love, but what you're saying, that regulation and repair are definitely possible. So that's a powerful medicine. Yep. And if we talk about so many of us think of intimacy as being about a sex, but you are widening that lens. Like, so if you can share, how can embodiment shift that way that we approach emotional and energetic intimacy?
Yeah, so intimacy is connection, and it can be through touch, it can be through eye contact, It can even just be through sitting next to someone on the bus.
Mm,
Um, but many of us, as you mentioned, might not have had a very good blueprint for how to connect with others. And so we might not be able to have that open receptivity to experience deeper intimacy. And many people, whenever the topic of sex, or they want to have more deeper connection in sex, it's a very confusing thing because we think of sex as this surface level about our bodies, about
mm,
attractiveness, which of course chemistry is very important. Um, but the actual ability to be vulnerable, sex is very vulnerable. That's the most vulnerable thing you can do. And so the ability to be vulnerable and show yourself to another person involves so much more than our bodies. And if we're able to
mm,
experience that emotional vulnerability, we're actually able to experience sex in a totally different realm. It's just, we're not really taught that. But that's actually, the more we can experience that, the more we can have greater and greater intimacy. That's kind of something that's beyond people's wildest dreams, really, because
yeah.
that is how we open ourselves to another person, is through feeling safe and through being able to be vulnerable with another person.
Mm. No, that's very true. That's really, very, very true. And yeah, like, do you think that embodiment can help us spot the red flags faster, or even prevent getting swept up in the trauma bonds?
Yeah, absolutely. The more someone is able to befriend their body and the signals that their body is giving them, the more they are going to be able to break some of these patterns. And so our bodies are constantly communicating with us. And this isn't something, I think it's moving more and more in that direction where people are starting to learn this skill. But this isn't something that's people are really taught. But if you are dating and intellectually this person checks all the boxes, right?
Right.
Um, and but you feel very tense, you're very sweaty
Mm,
when you're meeting them, or um, tension would be the biggest one, or you have a dropping feeling in your stomach, or your throat feels really tight. This is your body communicating with you that you're in fight or flight. And more than likely, there's something with this person that is making you feel unsafe. And
right.
listening to your body and understanding that it's telling you, I don't feel safe with this person,
Mm,
um, rather than thinking of just, oh, they're attractive, they have the right job, or they're saying the right
mm,
things. And if you talk with people after a breakup, they'll usually say, you know what? I knew really early on that something felt off. And so it's a skill that anyone can learn.
true. Exactly. And one more thing, like, what's the one truth about embodied intimacy and that most people find hard to accept?
Something that I see come up pretty often with clients around embodied intimacy is this idea that that initial chemistry or spark is what true love is, or soulmate is. And so I feel like that can be a really big misconception, because sometimes that spark or that initial rush of dopamine is actually a signal that your body is in distress. And instead of taking that signal and thinking, "Oh, this is my soulmate because I feel this electricity in my body," it's actually a signal from your body that you might not feel super safe. And so I would say that's probably one of the biggest misconceptions that people have when dating and trying to date with embodiment.
Hmm. Understood. Understood. Yeah, that's I mean deep truth drop, Amber. I mean, I know someone out there just exalted for the first time in weeks. So yeah, and also like one more thing. I mean, if someone listening and feels stuck or broken when it comes to love, what would you say to them?
That you're not broken, that this is inherent. This is your birthright. Love is your birthright. And this is something we're all animals at the end of the day, and we're meant to live in community. We're meant to have love in our lives, to give and receive love freely. Um, there's probably just typically people need to build a relationships with themselves and to care for themselves and their internal world before they can receive that from another person. Um, so that would be what I would say to someone who feels like broken and I can't do this and this is never going to work out. There's probably a need to coddle that internal self before feeling like you can receive that. But 100%, this is something that is available to everyone. And this is our birthright to give and receive love.
Mm, understood. That's really lovely. Great. So, Amber, thank you so much for reminding us that intimacy isn't about being becoming the perfect, but it's all about becoming present. And that pleasure isn't just the fireworks; it's feeling safe enough to stay. So, to all of you who are tuning in, if you have ever felt like your body was the barrier to love, maybe it's actually the bridge. Slow down, breathe, and you are not too much. You are not too late. So make sure to connect with Amber. Her work is transformational and her story is relatable and her message is very, very clear. Like regulated love is the real love. So if you found this episode valuable, then share it with a friend who's on this journey too. And hey, follow Pleasure Principles for more conversations that celebrate the soft, the strong, and everything in between. So before we move, I'll quickly love to ask Amber, like if someone wants to connect, how they can connect with you.
Yeah, the best way to connect with me is on my website, truenaturecounseling.net.
Oh, wow. Amazing. Great. So, with this hope, dear listeners, until next time, this is your host, Avik, signing off from Pleasure Principles. Stay curious, stay embodied, and stay open to the love that begins within. Thank you so much.